Thanks.
Good.
The audio. What is the audio's going that way?
Oh, this maybe? Hold up. We're going to adjust the audio real quick, Luis.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, how can you hear now? Or can you hear now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, good. Okay, I'll go over here, start my slides. If I can find my slide, where is it? Okay, so you guys can see this? I'm gonna go with yes.
Yep, I can share.
All right, so this is a presentation on OTMM 16, the good parts, or basically just everything that's new. So I basically scoured all the READMEs and tried to come up with everything that's changed from 10.5 to 16. Of course, if somebody at the end, if we know of something that I missed, we can add it to this document, and then we'll have kind of like a evolving document. So, all right, I thank you for coming to the presentation. I'll now take, that's the joke part. All right, so here's what we're gonna go over. Basically, there's some infrastructure and dependency changes. There's a new analytics framework. There's something called adaptive media delivery, YouTube integration, some UI enhancements, some enhancements to the transcoding features, some API changes for developers, and some stuff that was deprecated or removed. So changes to the infrastructure. OTMM 10.5, if you remember, was still stuck on Java 7. We were able to use it with Java 8, but it wasn't officially supported. So that's changed with 16. Java 8 is now fully supported. The next thing is JBoss was upgraded from version 5 to version 6. So we're now up to date with 2010 on that. Instead of the community edition, JBoss 5, they just went with Wildfly 9, which is actually the most recent version of Wildfly. But our customers will surely use JBoss 6 EAP because it has support. There's a few things that changed from JBoss 5 to 6. I put them in the bullets. If you're a Java developer, they may mean something to you. I'm not, so they don't relate to me. They did change the organization of the JBoss folder and made things a little bit easy to manage. Like the UI is a lot better, so I kind of enjoyed that. But, Solar went from version 3, which is extremely old, to version 5, which is just sort of old. And instead of being installed within the same Tomcat instance, it's now a standalone install. Let's see. Database changes, they added support for Postgres for both OTMM and EPS, and that Postgres is supported on both Windows and Linux. They also added the new versions, support for the new versions of SQL Server and Oracle. One thing that may come to bite some of our clients is that non-Unicode databases are no longer supported. I think that may be an issue with Disney, right? Do they still have a non-Unicode database?
No, it's Unicode.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, we had to
I thought they, okay, you guys already did that.
to fix the performance issue.
Okay.
So that
One caveat with the SQL Server 2014 though, that's only OTMM. EPS
Yeah.
is still required to. So
Yeah, so we'll get to EPS a little later. It ends up getting deprecated, so they basically didn't update it for 16. But yeah, so the config was moved from the T resource file, which is like 500 line file or whatever, to within the OTMM database. They are providing Azure templates official from OpenText. So you can log into Azure and basically start up a VM based on their template and then use it for whatever purposes. OTDS was also updated to 16. In their README, they say that they now support Tommy E, but I couldn't actually find that in the documentation, so I put a question mark there. But it may be possible to run OTDS in the same Tommy E container that you're running EPS in. They also added support for the latest version of Tomcat and better support for customizing the look and feel of the login window. Okay, so one of the big things that we actually have client demand for is this new analytics package. Basically, like 2 years ago, basically OpenText acquired this company called Actuate, which had a product called BERT Analytics and BERT iHub. What this is an embedded open source data suite. It basically has a data warehouse platform along with a visualization platform for doing business intelligence and management of the data. So what they did is they rebranded it as the OpenText Experience Analytics platform. And there's 3 pieces to that. There's something called the data collector. There's something called Big Data Analytics, which is the store, and then iHub, which is the information hub, which does report generation and data exploration. This is licensed separately from OTMM, so if your client has OTMM, they will have to pay for this in addition. And we have AMIs created by Ian that are now available for testing if anybody wants to try it out. And we also have some internal documentation on our wiki page. Here's just kind of a very broad look at the system architecture. At the minimum, for official support, it requires 2 extra servers, one for the data collector and one for the combination of the big data analytics product and iHub. Basically what happens is you have a stream of data starting from OTMM, which basically generates events and then sends them to the data collector server where there's like a OpenText branded Kafka instance running. The data collector holds them temporarily, and periodically the big data analytics server will then grab data from the data collector and then transform it, load it into its queryable database. Set up an architecture diagram of big data analytics. The only thing to worry about here is that you have a lot of choices in how you choose to implement it in terms of like the databases you can use. And there's like a bunch of UIs and admin stuff for doing it. It has support for HA and all that kind of stuff. So. Same for iHub. Basically, it's an IDE for building custom reports, but it also comes with some default reports just for OTMM. You also have many choices in terms of which database you choose to implement. And it also integrates with the OTDS authentication system, so you can bring over your users if you want to give users access to this data. Okay, so here's kind of a view of how to configure from within OTMM. Once you've installed everything, the data collector server and the big data analytics server, it is multi-tenant, so you can connect multiple OTMM instances to your big data analytics server. The way it works is that there's like an embedded iframe within the OTMM UI that basically holds a visualization report from iHub. And if you can see on the bottom left, there's a screenshot of the configuration page where you basically specify the data collector server and port, which is where OTMM sends its events to, and the tenant ID is like obviously which instance of OTMM this is. And then the last 3 are basically where it's pulling the reports, and those are the URL to the iHub server and the paths to the actual reports and dashboards. If you look at the top right, this is a view of within the Teams interface, how you choose which events you want to log. So you can decide to log, add user, but I don't want to log add link or something. So you have fine control over that. And at the bottom right, for each event, you can actually add optional metadata. So you can say, in addition to sending that this event occurred and a few pieces of information around that, you can also send metadata associated with that asset to the analytics package as well. All right, so here's a view of one of the built-in reports. This is the asset report. So you can see it's got basically very simple graphs. You can look at assets by the type of content, video, image, audio, by the size of the content, by the user group that imported it, and the size by user group. So you can filter all these by date, and there are some simple drill downs for the content type. So in addition to the video, you can also find out what file type of video it is. And for all these, you can also export data to a file if you want to do some type of separate processing. Next one is the usage reports. So again, you can filter by date. These have no drill down, so this is pretty much all you get. You can do like searches by day. You can find the top search keywords, the amount of downloads per day, which assets were downloaded the most, asset imports, that's like imports per day, and then downloads per user group, and then off the page there's also like user logins. So we were doing custom Python to get this information for OpenText. So like if they were to move to this, they would be able to get some of that built in. Okay. So those were the built-in reports. As I mentioned, they have support for custom report generations. So I don't know how many of our clients will find this basic information that useful. So we expect that if there is any client value out of this, it'll be from custom reports. And their documentation has a lot of information on how to generate those. All right, the next big feature is adaptive media delivery. So basically what this is it allows your OTMM instance to act as kind of like a web server to serve assets to external applications. And so basically what you might have like several different types of devices, like a cell phone, a web app, or whatever, that they're requesting assets, but they're requesting like a certain rendition of an asset, whether it's a version, the size, aspect ratio, or even the file format. And what this does is it basically allows for those different device types to get the file that they want. So typically with OTMM, you just have like, you have the base asset and then you might have like 1 or 2 renditions, but this allows for like an unlimited amount of renditions to be served.
At
So-
a high level or maybe detail level, when you go through the transformation pipeline and you get cache.
So what happens at a high level is this requires a separate server. And basically what happens is it caches requested renditions that are not like part of the base asset and rendition.
So they would go through whatever transformation pipeline.
Yeah.
And then get cached.
And then get cached. So like if the same request comes in 50 times, you don't have to go through that again. But the first one, yeah, it might take a little while.
So that's the only first strategy.
Those are the only 2 that are out of the box. Yeah. So this is a new feature with 16. So I'm not sure whether they plan to kind of add more or not. But yeah. So
I must have missed that. What's different than just hitting your points? OTMM is pushing.
So the thing that's new with this is that you can actually request renditions that aren't pre-generated, like when you do an import.
Okay, gotcha.
So you can say instead of
You can
like,
specify.
yeah, like width, height, whatever. So that's the big change with this. It also integrates with analytics. So you can kind of see what your devices are asking for, like what other requests are.
Just get rid of all of their rendition stuff and have just this.
I know,
with
right?
more purge strategy.
Yeah, it was kind of like,
Like never purge, that's basically all your other renditions, right?
yeah. Yeah, so it seemed like kind of overcomplicated for what it is, because it like requires like a separate server with its own database and file repo. Yeah, for the caching. It's like, really? Can you just like build this in? But whatever. But that does allow it to scale outside of just your base OTMM cluster. So you just, apparently scaling is a lot easier. It's just like straight horizontal scaling. So anyway, we haven't had a client ask for this yet. So basically everything I know is just from reading docs. So I don't know how it actually works in practice, but. So here's a picture of the architecture. The one on the right, the one on the left is, I don't know, I found that on Google, but I mean, wait, backwards, sorry. So, as you can see, it requires its own file repo and database server. And then it talks back and forth with OTMM server to find out what's being requested and that kind of thing.
It's gotta be expensive as fuck for all these licenses, with all the servers. And
Yeah.
I know for a SQL Server, you pay at least for 4. I'm sure these other things are not very simple. You should be licensing you.
Yeah.
It's pretty.
All right, next feature, YouTube integration. So what this does is allows for direct upload of an asset to YouTube channel. So it's a very quick setup. It probably takes like 5 minutes or less to set up like your Google account with an associated YouTube channel. You basically just get an API credential from the developer console and then fill out a few forms and get a few tokens back or something. And then the Teams menu, there's this, as you see in the bottom, there's like a form for setting the name for the delivery template, the secrets file you got from YouTube, and then the channel email ID. And then it just kind of synchronizes those up. And then what happens after that's done is when you're selecting assets where you normally would click the share button to like export or send an MFT link, there'll be an option for deliver to YouTube channel. And I haven't tested this, but I believe you can set up a separate delivery template for multiple channels. So if you want like on-prem channel or engineering channel.
What about like Thomas's channel, Jeremy's channel?
I believe so, yeah.
So I log in, I can push it to my channel.
That's my understanding. I haven't tested that out. And I haven't really seen any way of like, there's a FET for this, but I haven't seen like any granularity in terms of a FET for each delivery template. So I'm not sure if it's just like you get access to all the channels or what. This is something that we could test out. But so far we haven't had a customer ask for it. So we don't have
Customers asking for upload to Brightcove, which is basically like YouTube.
Brightcove.
But I doubt this is.
I wonder if they have an API for adding another.
Yeah, it's one of the same thing.
Whatever.
Possibly. Yeah, if there's like a way just to add generic share functionality.
Social media outlets.
Okay. Miscellaneous UI enhancements. So on the home page, you have those widgets. You can add 2 new ones dealing with creative review to that home page. One's like my reviews, one's my tasks. There's a new grid view for the assets page. In 10.5, you had basically gallery view versus spreadsheet view. Now you have grid view, masonry view, and spreadsheet view. So grid is basically every asset rendition is like the gallery, and the masonry is like the aspect ratio is preserved for each rendition. So you have advanced filtering options now for the jobs and tasks page. So if you have a lot of jobs and tasks, you can get rid of the crap you don't care about, like filtering by status or whatever. So you can generate an embeddable widget for a single asset or creative review and then put that on an external web page. And of course, as I mentioned, there's a new UI for the system settings that were previously in T-Resource. I have kind of a screenshot of that right here, but it's basically just like a browsable thing where you can set, you can add new settings or set existing ones,
So
whatever.
they call it at runtime or?
It depends on the setting. So they have like in the docs, I think NC, which means non-cached, I believe. I can't remember. We had to figure this out like a year and a half ago. I forget what it is, but yeah, some you have to restart, some you don't. So. Okay. So a couple of transcoding enhancements. So they have support for FFmpeg. I mean, it's isn't really great compared to like Vantage, but it's free. So that's an option if your customer doesn't want to pay for Vantage or something.
Wait, did 10.5 not have FFmpeg?
No. And something new is also if you have a failed transcoder job, instead of having to redo the whole import, you can now just resubmit the failed transcoder job. That's in the Teams interface. This is stuff for developers. I don't know how much this is interesting. The REST API now has a version 3 with it looks like a very minor change from version 2. Version 1 of the REST API is no longer supported. I don't know if we had anybody using that. I don't really know if anybody cares about any of this stuff. So do you guys use any of these things?
Well, Dave ran into some issue. It's not listed on here.
Okay, yeah, these are the only ones that are listed. So it's possible, yeah, that there are more. We can add them to like a second slide or something.
Their asset to get API data back doesn't give the path to the original asset.
Oh, that was the same patch issue and we think that's because we didn't redeploy IPv, but off topic, I guess. But we think that might not be patch related. I was talking to Cliff. But.
No, that's a built-in tag, content type.
Okay, well, we can discuss it after. But yeah, so there may be other issues, but these are the ones that are acknowledged by OpenText. Okay, so some deprecated or removed features. As I mentioned, the EPS is deprecated, so EPS there is no version 16. It's still at 10.5. And they didn't say, but we can kind of guess that maybe they're moving to Cordis for v17. I don't know. I mean, that's their other workflow product, so that'd be probably a good guess. Was there possibly? Who knows? They probably got like 12 of them. Portal is deprecated. Adobe Drive support deprecated. As I mentioned, the non-Unicode database support. That was actually removed. The first 3 were deprecated, which means they're still supported, but will probably be removed like in the next release. The non-Unicode is actually removed. The admin client support for OTDS was removed, although you can still use it to do some stuff for EPS. And support for IE10 was dropped. So. All right, so that's the real end. Questions? Is anybody in the? Okay, I don't see any questions in the actual in the hip chat, so I guess we're done. Thanks, guys. I gotta find how to turn off this. Stop broadcast. That probably doesn't.